Hey guys, Lovey Freeman here, and today we're going to be playing some Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich mod. And we've loaded up into the game here, and we're going to be playing as Evil France, the Red Menace, the Commune over here. And I've played this country several times in this campaign, and I think it's one of the easiest major powers for a new player who's trying to get into Hearts of Iron 4 and the Kaiserreich mod in particular. You kind of learn how to play on, and there are a few reasons for that, which we'll talk about later. So the starting situation here, if you're familiar with the Kaiserreich mod, it's an alternate history scenario where the Germans have won the First World War, and they are the sort of preeminent imperial power at the moment. And they've got Africa, they've got Middle Europe over there, and they've also got colonies over here in the east. They take from the Entente powers. And after losing the war, the Entente powers had a little bit of unrest at home here, and you can see they kind of got kicked out by some socialist revolutions. So the real British government is over here in Canada, and the real French government is over here in Algeria. And sort of the position that you're in as the Commune is you're a revanchist power, and you're trying to get revenge against the Germans for their victory over us in the First War. And if you look in over here, you can see that the Germans are actually holding on to some of our rightful clay, which we are going to have to take back. And of course, when this happens, the real French government's not too happy about being kicked out. So when we're distracted with the Germans, they're going to try and take their clay back from us. And that's more or less how the conflict works out. So France is more one of the easier countries to play. First of all, because they start off in a pretty strong position. If you've played the game before, you're going to know that the Germans are going to get hit real early by an event called Black Monday, which is going to really do a number on their economy. And the Americans and the Canadians and the French over here, they've got some economic depression going on. They've got some political instability at home, whereas we're mostly in the clear. So you don't really have to worry about too many crippling debuffs early game. And the other thing about the Commune in particular is that we've got a land border with Germany, so you're playing mostly a land war game, and you don't really need to worry too much about your navy. And naval mechanics is a whole other bag of tricks for Hearts of Iron 4. And if you're a new player, it's the less number of things you have to learn at the start, the better. So the first thing that you want to do when you start up as any country is you kind of want to take stock of your initial position. So if we switch over to the factions mode, we can see that we're over here and we're in the Third Internationale, which is the main socialist faction, with our buddies, the Union of Britain. And also, if you look on the decisions here, we have we will have the option to invite the Socialist Republic of Italy. And Kaiserreich in general has a lot of random events. Like, it doesn't play out the same every game, and there's the opportunity for us to get some new friends overseas in different flips, as can the Entente and the Reichspakt. But right now it's just us and Britain and potentially the Italians in our faction. And the Germans, you can see they've got Africa, they've got all of these Eastern European puppets in their faction. Of course, Germany proper, and they've got, again, that territory over here in East Asia. And they're also still have good relations with the Hungarians, and if we do too good against the Germans, which we're going to, then if the Hungarians and the Austrians aren't involved in their own internal problems, they're going to try and help out the Germans. So all this over here is going to probably be against us. And then on the Entente team, they've got Canada, they got Algeria. They've got they're going to have Portugal. They flip pretty early and pretty reliably to the Entente team. They got Australia, and again they can have some other flips too. The Entente also has a pretty strong presence over here in the Caribbean. And because the Entente's all overseas, the way they're going to attack us usually is, of course, by naval invasion. Spain can go anyway. If you look at the tree over here, the Spanish can join the Reichspakt, they can join the Entente, and they're going to hopefully have a civil war that'll give us an opportunity to get socialists in power over here, which will be really important so that we don't wind up on a two-front war. And another reason that France is kind of an easier power to play is that your whole kind of sphere of influence that you have to worry about for your main front is, even if there is a two-front war, is kind of like all on the screen over here. If you compare that to the Germans, they can have the potential to be backstabbed by the Russians. They can have to worry about their puppets over here in East Asia having problems. And it's a lot, like when you're looking at this, it's just a lot to split your attention off of, whereas France, you're just kind of primarily focused right over here. So let's look at how we are in our starting position. So over here, you can see we've got our laws, we've got limited conscription, we got export focus, pretty standard, and we start on partial mobilization. Partial mobilization is really nice to start on. You don't have any factory speed construction debuffs like you would have on civilian or partial or early mobilization over here. And most countries start on civilian economy, so they've got to pay 200 political power to get here, and we just start at that point for free, which is real nice. And same with limited conscription. There are a few countries that start off on extensive, but limited is pretty good. It's the highest recruitable population you can get without having a debuff. Government, you can't change your government anymore. They kind of are what they are. This guy's not great. He's got a lot of debuffs. That's like so-so. This is, foreign minister usually isn't that important, but this one's all right. And this guy's got some construction speed buffs, which is pretty good for the cost of a little bit of political power. We have no military staff, and we have no research and production companies, which is, again, pretty standard. We're part of the Third Internationale. Our ruling party is syndicalists. And that's about it for this screen. Up here, political power, we're making a massive 1.95 political power per day, which will drop down to still 0.95 once we select a national focus, which is pretty high. If you played Kaiserreich before, a lot of countries are in the hole for a lot of political power pretty early on. We have 52% party popularity, which is pretty good. 50% stability, which is average. 40% war support, which is pretty average, and manpower not great at 142,000. 63 factories, 21 military, and 33 civilian, 9 dockyards. That's it's not obviously it's going to be less than the Germans, but that's still a decent factory count. Fuel. And one thing you're going to notice here is that we are going to have to worry about fuel for sure. We have barely any domestic oil and no refineries right now, and our stockpile currently 173K, not great. 100 convoys, and then the usual, starting off with no experience. One thing in Kaiserreich, political or party popularity really only affects your political power gain. So if you don't have great party popularity, it's not awful. You can't get cooped or anything like that except by events. Stability used to be a lot more impactful than it is now. It used to have really bad debuffs for bad stability, and on the flip side, you got pretty nice buffs if you got up real high. War support, also mainly you want 50% so you can get up the war economy. Otherwise, this usually is not going to hurt you too much if it's a bit lower, and there are lots of ways we can improve that. Unlike the base game in this particular version of Kaiserreich, you're not going to get conscription riots or events like that if you're going to war at low stability or low war support. So that's not something you need to worry about. So if you look at our national spirits here, inefficient intelligence, that's going to hurt us for encryption and decryption. That's not great. And then we've got the communard spirit, which is a little bit of negative organization, but we get some infantry attack and recovery rate. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but you got it, so you take it. National focus tree. France has an extremely powerful national focus tree. And if you look over here, you get the air right away. Within 2 short focuses, you can start getting your research bonuses for ahead-of-time fighters if you wanted. Again, if you go on the tank route here, come down here, and again, within 3 really short focuses, you can get ahead-of-time research on tanks. And you get some bonuses, again, kind of mixed bag bonuses for armor over here if you want them. You get another research bonus, 100% for tanks. There's 50% over here, and again, you get negative 5% consumer goods factories. That's really good. You get military factories over here. This gives you war support. Again, negative 5% consumer goods factories, and a pretty significant boost to factory output for like 2/3 of a year over here. That's real good. And if you come over to here, you can get an extra research slot. Again, 2 pretty short focus times for an extra research slot. It's also very strong. 3% recruitable population. And then the economy, you have just like the army here, you're going to have 4 different trees for economy and 4 different trees for army. and those are going to line up with whether or not you elect the Jacobins, Sorelians, Travailleurs, or the Anarchistes in the Congress event that we're going to get here in a second. And whichever one you pick over there kind of locks you in to these trees. You can see we can't pick them right now. So in Kaiserreich, sometimes you're going to want to look at your tree first so you can identify, if I want to go down this path, I'm going to need to have a certain condition that has to be met first, so you don't kind of screw yourself over if you pick the wrong government in an event. And then again on the economy tree, these are all real nice, but you also, when you come down over to here, you get the spirit over here, 10% construction speed. That's, again, extremely strong for 35 days. And you get another one down here. So you can get, if you pick the Jacobins over here with communal industrialization, you can get 10% here, 10% here, 10% here for 30% in just three focuses. So very strong focus tree for Commune of France, especially when you compare it to some other countries when they've got to wait 70 days, and then the ones that they really want, like a research slot or a tank research bonus or a fighter research bonus, they're like 4 or 5 focuses in before you get to the good stuff. But for France, we're kind of spoiled for choice. We can get whatever we want, and we can get it pretty much right away. So decisions, you're going to come over to here, you're going to have propaganda. If you need to increase your war support, you take propaganda decisions. If you need to increase your stability, you're going to take this. If you need to increase your party popularity, you're going to do this. Everyone has access to these. It's not unique to the French. Head of intelligence is going to give you another operative slot, and if you want to play the spy game, that's a good one to take. And again, pretty much everyone has access to this decision. We can have the opportunity to invite the Italians into the Internationale. And we get a decision over here. And as we invite people into the Phalanstère there's a focus we can do that. We can develop their countries by paying some political power to get them some factories. So if you want to help your allies, that might be something you want to spend your political power on. In terms of intelligence agency, again, France starts with an intelligence agency right off the bat, which is pretty nice. Not a lot of people have that. And you can see we'll get our first spy in 29 days. You can do a lot of pretty powerful stuff with the spies. I think in particular, blueprint stealing is very powerful. But for this playthrough, I'm not gonna really focus on the intelligence agency too much, aside from getting some anti-partisan stuff to help with resistance scores once we start taking territory. Researches, we get 4 research slots. That's pretty much par for the course for a major. Middle powers usually get around 3 slots, and then some Bhutan tier countries, off in the middle of nowhere, they're going to get 2. But we start off with 4. And if you look over here, we start off with 1936 guns, and we have motorized already along with Marines and Mountaineers. This is pretty good. There's not a whole lot of countries that are going to start with more than that. Support companies, we have engineers and recon. Again, not a whole lot of countries are going to have more than that. Most people only get one or the other. Some don't even have support equipment research, I don't think. And armor, we're going to have 1934 light tanks and heavy tanks. Again, that's pretty standard for a major. Some have one or the other. Artillery, we have 1934 artillery, 1936 anti-air. Pretty standard. It's nice that we start with anti-air, though. Take a drink. A lot of talking. Land doctrine, we don't start with the land doctrine. And if you look on our focus tree, regardless of whichever branch we pick, the land doctrine is just any land doctrine that we want in the trees that we're going to be able to get. So we're not limited by our focus tree in terms of what doctrine that we pick. Some countries will. So like if you look at like the Russians, for example, they're going to have in their national focus tree, like if you want to do overwhelming firepower, you get specifically superior firepower doctrine. Or if you want the tank buffs, like this one over here is ridiculous, but that requires you to have spearhead doctrine in mobile warfare to have taken. So if you want some focuses and your country requires that you get certain bonuses for a specific doctrine, then if you don't take that doctrine, those bonuses are kind of wasted, which isn't ideal. But in France, we don't have that issue. Ship designs. So we have the 1936 ship hulls. We don't have dreadnoughts. We start off with this, which is nice. But for the most part, Navy 1936 hulls aren't bad, but it's not the best. We're missing sonars and some other things here too. We do have transport ships, so if you're doing any sort of a strategy that's going to require you to do early game naval invasions, you want to make sure that you check to make sure that you have transport ships researched first, and otherwise you're going to want to make sure you research that before you go to war. Not every country starts with transport ships, and that can be a real spoiler for you if you try to do a naval invasion and you don't have that technology. Naval doctrine, again, we don't have anything, and our focus tree, here we do have to make a choice. So if we want these bonuses on this side, we're going to have to pick fleet and being or base strike. If we want these bonuses on this side, then we're onto trade interdiction. Again, we don't have to take trade interdiction if we did these, but we'd be wasting the bonuses if we didn't. Air is pretty bad for Commune of France to start off. Like you've got these, you got 1933 fighters and tactical bombers. Those are obsolete right off the gate. I mean, starting year is 1936. So we're missing fighter one. We don't have close air support. We don't have TAC bombers. All we've got are the naval bombers. And for whatever reason, we also have the carrier variant researched. Air doctrine, nothing over here. And I don't believe international focus. The focus is just any doctrine. So we're not going to be stuck with a particular one to go with the bonus. Pick whichever one we want here. Engineering, we start with 1936 electronic mechanical engineering over here. This is again, a lot of the majors have this, but a lot of countries don't start with this. This is really nice that we start with this technology. Industry, we start with fuel storage and the first two refinery techs. This is going to be helpful because we can start building refineries like right away if we need them, and we probably will need some, and we don't have to waste any research on them. This is a pretty long research to take too. It's one of the higher count in days to get, and we don't start with any of this other stuff here. But I don't think anyone in the game starts with any of this stuff over here. So overall, our industry not bad. Diplomacy, kind of already talked about our geopolitical situation there. Trade. So what resources you have is pretty important determining your strategy, because that kind of affects what you can reliably build. And in France, we have steel, we have aluminum, no tungsten, no rubber, and like pretty much no oil and no chromium. So what this means is that if we want to build stuff, excuse me. Yeah, sorry there. I'm back. So if you want to build stuff that's going to need that stuff, we're going to have to secure those resources during wartime. And because we're not really a naval power, getting stuff from overseas is going to be pretty risky, because they're going to be vulnerable to being torpedoed by submarines. Like I said, we don't really have any overseas holdings or anything like that. And the Internationale is kind of limited right now to this, and this is what's guaranteed to be in your team, so you don't really have a whole lot of bases you could even support escort fleet from to stop your convoys from getting sunk. So you want to rely on overland trade as much as possible. And so for us, it means we're going to need a way to secure oil. If we're going to play with planes, we're going to need a way to secure rubber. And then for tanks, we're going to either have to get chromium or tungsten, depending on the type of tank that we pick. Construction tab. Consumer goods, 13 factories. We're not building anything right now. Production. So we have a decent number of military factories to start off with, and you'll notice when you start with these like kind of default lines, they already have maximum production efficiency, which is really nice. So if you can set up stuff that's going to be useful to get right off the bat, then by all means you want to do that, so you can take advantage of that. And like we talked about when we went through the research over here, these planes are all like complete trash. These are already obsolete. We don't want to be making them. We don't want to be wasting production on this stuff. So we're going to kill all of these. We're going to go up to 5 factories on light tanks. We start with quite a few light tank units, and I'll go over that in a second. But light tanks are also extremely powerful units for sending over as volunteers and for early wars. So this will help us keep those units supplied. We're going to put 2 on motorized, 2 on sport equipment, and it looks like I glitched out here, but that is annoying. Drag that down. There we go. We got 2 on artillery there, and that is really frustrating. Kind of like stuck out over there. Yeah, hold on, guys. I'm gonna have to restart here to fix this.